And now it's time to see your viewer comments. Watches with Dennis says, I agree with the indices are not required to qualify as a watch or timepiece. That said, I'm not a fan of watch designs that eschew indices. I expect a bit of precision from my watches, and I think if I were in the mood for something that doesn't need a level of precise time telling, that I'd want something more whimsical and less minimalistic, like a one-handed watch from Meistersinger. Okay, I get his point, and that is a valid reason to have indices. You still want a measure of accuracy and maybe even semblance of a watch on your watch, because without the indices, it just looks so minimalistic and more fashion heavy. And that is a valid point to have those indices. At the very least, click on every minute of the watch. But having a whimsical approach, I guess this is where me and Watch Dennis has a variance of opinion. I would rather go with a minimalist and reserved design rather than a whimsical approach. Say, for example, having Mickey Mouse hands or something on your dial. It would really be working against my taste if a watch did that, unless it has a cultural touchstone. Say, for example, that who's that creator, that Metal Gear Solid watch, I forgot the creator's name, but anyway, I'll just put it on the screen. He created a really nice mecha themed watch, and I want that kind of watch because it hits me on a totally different level because of my nostalgia for Metal Gear Solid and maybe for Gundams and mech design. Now, a few weeks ago, I asked all of you in a YouTube post to give me some suggestions of, would you rather have this watch or this watch? Mr. Shinobi says Jason would rather an Omega, would rather a bracelet, and would rather see the cat go up in flames. Amazingly, Mr. Shinobi there is right and correct. I would actually choose Omega instead of Rolex. Yes, there are certain Rolex that I find attractive, but as a whole, when it comes to their collections and the watches that they're releasing, I would veer more in the side of Omega. I find Omega is doing a lot more interesting things with their watches. They're more often ready to innovate, and they're more likely to take risks. But that's not a knock at Rolex. I know Rolex has been a powerhouse for decades, but that's my preference. Also, I would rather prefer a bracelet as well. I love me a good bracelet, and Mr. Shinobi there is right. And yes, of course, cats should go up in flames all the time. There's some other remarks about that. Dr. Bob's Nightmare said, let the dog take care of the cat. Yes, I wholeheartedly 1000% agree. Then there's others who suggested something else, which actually I think got the idea in the first place. Like JW Florida says here that, would I rather have ball or ZRC? I didn't look up ZRC ahead of time. What's a ZRC? ZRC watch. Let's look at that. ZRC. Oh, actually, ZRC is like really nice. But he gave a few suggestions here: Ball, ZRC, Zelos, Squalid, Christopher Ward Titaniums after the logo change, Tudor. Okay, so let's rank all of those together in JW Florida's list. I would go with the very top. I'd probably go with Zelos. That's a pretty obvious choice there. I think Zelos has a lot of very interesting and affordable microbrand watches. If Christopher Ward was a little bit more affordable, then they may have overtaken Zelos in my category there. But Zelos takes the top. I'd probably go Christopher Ward the second. Then ZRC is quite interesting to me. I like their designs, their bullhead designs. I like also the way that they build their dials, and they have so many different configurations as well. This is an interesting watch brand. I would just at first glance I would take that. Then I would take probably Tudor. I like me some good Tudor also. I find that certain Tudors now tend to be a little bit more boring compared to the tastes that I am seeing compared to the other watches that I've been seeing. But Tudor also takes the cake over Squale and over Ball. Ball is just too boring for me. I don't know. I can't seem to love any Ball watches. I would rather go Bell and Ross than Ball. In fact, sorry Ball, but even if you give me money, it would be very hard. Well, of course, if you give me money, yes, then I would review Ball watches, but very unlikely. I would like you to send me some suggestions for watch fights, like Rolex versus Omega, or like the Black Bay 58 versus the Zelos Hammerhead, or something like that. What would I rather pick? Show me, or just give me two watches that you think would be an interesting take for me to pick. It doesn't have to be related to each other. It doesn't have to be two dive watches. It doesn't have to be two pilot watches. Just give me two watches and ask me which I would rather pick, whether it's a quartz or automatic, whatever it may be. It doesn't even have to be the same price point either. It's a way for me to interact with you and something that we could talk about. And yeah, maybe you could pick my brain and what I'm thinking regarding those kind of choices.